Oh, you damn right. Recruiting never stops. It's the recruiting hour once again. Jason Sukamel taking a little time with the family this week. That means this guy steps in. That's Jeff Ketchum
What's
of Orange
recruiting?
Blood. Yeah. Oh, are you kidding? That's what's in your veins, brother. That's what's in your blood. You know you cover recruiting better
You have
than
no
anybody.
idea what literal nerdy thing I'm doing right now.
I can
I
only
am,
imagine.
as we start this show,
Yeah.
I am tracking the draft hit rate of top 10 and top 5 quarterbacks in the. I'm trying to figure out exactly how valuable Bell is.
See? That's what he does. That's what he does.
So as we record this, I'm working on a group of stats that shows how much the first contract that each quarterback that's rated as a 5-star has got.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, wasn't that how much that guy ends up being worth?
Wow, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. All right, see, that's the kind of stuff you're going to get on the recruiting hour this week. Before we dive into it, let's give credit to our man John at Longhorn Wealth Management Group. You see him right there. You also see him right there. John was Mr. Predictor last week. We always talk about how big of a Longhorn fan he is, so he's following closely, and he predicted that Atkinson and Cooper would end up in the Texas class. He also thought Texas could get up into that top 5 class area, and all of it happened. He's so excited. He wants to offer all Orange Bloods Live fans that opportunity to look at a free 90-minute private consultation. Learn how working with a certified financial planner like John can help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and ensure your legacy. 972-707-4900 or go to longhornwealth.net. John has been in the OB family for over 20 years. I can make Ketch feel a little bit old if I tell him John signed up for Orange Bloods in January of 2002 is what John said. Long time ago.
That's almost the whole ride. He showed up before Sukamel did.
Yeah, exactly. That's a long time ago. Long time. So, Ketch, one thing John had to admit, though, he didn't quite see the J.J. Johnson flip in the middle of that week. He did predict Atkinson and Cooper. Obviously, it was an incredible week for Texas in recruiting and a week of sort of sobering results if you're Kirby Smart and Georgia. Let's start with Derrick Cooper and just how Texas did this, because sometimes I'll tell Texas to just be Texas. Feels like that's what they did with Derrick Cooper. Tell people how it laid out.
Well, Texas had its eyes on Xavier Crowell, another running back out of the SEC area. That kid commits to Alabama, and I think Texas really thought – I was a little surprised. I had a source that I reached out to a couple of weeks ago after Crowell announced they of all the guys that they've missed on, right? We've talked about Felix Ojo, and there have been Jamarian Carlton and a few guys. They knew what the score was. I think they felt like none of those were surprises. I think they thought they were in better shape with Crowell than it ended up. He commits to Alabama, and when they were done there, I think they had felt like their confidence level was really high. And then for whatever reason, I think they felt like, I don't know whether or not Crowell gave them indications, maybe signed a contract, I don't know, but they kind of moved on to their second target. And the attitude within the building, look at me using an on-war expression. I get the sense that they felt like a impact running back in this class was something that they had to have. There aren't that many impact running backs across the country. They had kind of made their bed, they thought, with Crowell. Then he commits to Alabama. And in the last month, they had conversations with Cooper. Cooper had taken an unofficial visit. He took 7 official visits starting in May all over the country. There were a couple of weeks where he took 2 official visits, like midweek visits. He was like knocking them out. Texas was not one of them.
Wow.
In late June, he told Jason Sukamel in person in Indianapolis while holding 5 other hats that were supposed to represent his top 5 that Texas had a lot of work to do. I think Texas decided that they wanted to have an impact running back in this class. I think they obviously would have stepped up their game from an NIL revenue share, whatever his package is going to be. You don't skip to the front of the line with nothing. Say, hey, no, we haven't been in your recruitment very long, but if you could just forget everybody else and come play with us for free, not what happened.
If you've ever seen our logo on a duffel bag, it is something.
So, like, they did whatever they needed to do to make that guy happy from a finance standpoint. And then I think, you know, that kid talks about wanting to play in the NFL. And when he talks about going someplace for the next 3 or 4 years, he's majoring in the NFL. He's pretty honest about it. Like, he wants to be developed. He wants to go to the NFL. I think Texas was able to show, hey, look, man, look at us in the last 5 years. We're cranking out running backs. And, oh, by the way, I think our depth chart, it sets up in a way where, and, you know, this is an interesting year because Texas has 2 draft-eligible players at the running back position that I don't think we think of as, well, those guys are going to leave to go pro.
No.
Trey Wisner, I'm just going to do that the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Trey Newton right now sitting at home somewhere doing the he's doing the Leo DiCaprio. Oh!
I was going to say Trey Newton's head just popped out of the ground like a prairie dog. What? Who?
They remember me. They really remember me. Sorry, I channeled my inner
Sally Field.
I did. I channeled my inner Sally Field.
You like me. You really like me.
Trey Wisner's first team preseason All SEC. If he has that kind of a season, maybe he is the kind of a guy that would go pro early. I don't know what would be left for him in a year where he follows 1,000-yard season with another. If he's first team All SEC at the end of the year, I think we tend to think as all first team SEC running backs as they go pro. So maybe he's different than, maybe he's better than we think. I don't know. But if we live in a world where we talk about first team All SEC running backs being NFL players, then maybe we have to take Wisner seriously as an early draft candidate. And look, CJ Baxter is draft eligible. Now, we know he's coming off of a major injury. He hasn't even put together a full season yet. But let's say last 6 weeks of this season, Chad, he goes on a 100-yard game. Let's say Wisner gets a hangnail and he's out for a few weeks. Mm-hmm. And Baxter comes in and goes 150, 150s, putting 100-yard games together. Suddenly, everybody's saying, that guy was a 5-star. Now, look, he's finally back from his major injury. And at the end of the season, that guy having come off of a major injury, if he went on a late season heater, a guy coming off. So I think you look at the running back position and you go, well, 6 guys are on the roster and all 6 could come back. Or, man, we might literally be in the need for a starting running back next year if you're Steve Sarkisian. So they made this a real point and they went out and got it done. And I think it is, for me, along with Justice Terry last year, it really is one of the we're Texas, hear us roar moments in the Steve Sarkisian era in recruiting. They lost out on their top target in recruiting and essentially went, well, who's second best?
Right.
That guy? Have we been dating him at all in the last 2 months? Not really. Do we think we can still get him? Hey, it's me.
It's me. Right.
And they did. They did.
Yeah,
He committed and is not signed yet, but he's committed to play at Texas and hasn't taken his official visit yet. And oddly, all of the teams that would try to knock down the door and change that don't have that in their hip pocket anymore. If you're Texas, you still have your official visit that he can use. Yeah, he can still come to Austin later in the season on their dime. That worked out perfectly. They should try that more often.
Yeah, there's so many impressive parts of it to me, Catch, but just the package that you just put together there, the idea of there was no visit, yet at the end of it, when Jason Sukumel asked him about, hey, what was it? What was it about Texas? One of the first things out of his mouth was, well, you know, they call themselves RBU. And I started thinking about that. And I'm like, wow, that sticks in his head. Obviously, the 2 Heisman Trophy winners are running backs. We don't have to go over the history of running backs at Texas. But recently, you can talk about Bijan and Roshan and that group. So he sees that. So you got a guy that's that good talking about RBU and how impressed he was. And to your point, he hasn't walked on campus. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And the week itself, Catch, you've been doing this a long time. Atkinson as a commit from that Georgia wanted, then the flip from Georgia, J.J. Johnson, Georgia to Texas, then Derrick Cooper, who Georgia would have loved to have, picks Texas. Obviously, Miami would have loved to have him too. As weeks go, especially in July, like, where does that one rank in terms of you covering recruiting?
Well, I mean, it will be up there. I always, in my head, the one that sticks out the most to me is right after they won the national championship, Sergio Kendall, Eddie Jones, and Dion Beasley were arguably the top three players prospect. They were either the top three or three of the top four prospects in the state of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And they all came down, I think, on the same weekend and committed. It was like, oh my God.
Look out.
And Sergio Kendall was a big deal.
Sure.
And so that always sticks out in my mind as the most emphatic, let me whip it out on the table moment that it just sticks in my head. But this will go up there. Like, I don't know how to do roll call on this, but
yeah. And the fact that it's not right around signing day too.
Well, and again, the one that sticks out of my mind from that class of 2000, that was one of the reasons why that stood out. The circumstances of this, I think, Texas has had 1 week heaters before. You go back and look when Arch committed, and that little period around July in that 2023 class, we talked about CJ Baxter. Baxter was one of the guys that really kickstarted the momentum. And again, it was a running back where it was like, oh. Mm-hmm. Some people nationally were really surprised by Baxter.
Yeah.
People that were covering Texas recruiting were not, but there were some people that did not think Texas would get Baxter. That we were doing the thing where we were trying to tell Texas fans that were overreacting to some degree. Oh my God, what is it? Texas is not, they lose on Felix Ojo. And one of the things we said is, look, it's not as bad as you think. They've got Diabell. They got Richard Wesley. You want to get to the end of this recruiting class, and you want to have 6 or 7 consensus super blue chips. And they were sitting at 3, and we were able to point to some guys and go, they feel like they're pretty good here. They feel like they're pretty good there. Like, everybody calm down. And one of the things that we said was, you can pretty much set it in stone that there will be a guy that signs with Texas in December that it didn't look like they were in on in May and June. And it turns out that Derrick Cooper, which is weird because in the end, that was a foregone conclusion, Chad. Like, the last week of his recruitment, it started with a Miami publisher for 24/7 or On3 or one of the networks. I don't even know the guy's name, put in a Texas prediction.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was like, everybody just noticed the Miami guy put in a Texas prediction. And the next thing you know, I think everybody and their mother was like, hey, calling their sources.
Yeah.
And it was a live wire. It was not, when the Cooper thing happened, it was not like, oh yeah, we're fingers crossed. They were like, we got him.
Right.
I was like, what do you mean you got him?
And that's another great point, Catch, about how a Texas fan should feel about this whole thing as it led up to Sunday. And of course, we're debuting on Wednesday at 10 a.m. as we do. Whenever you're checking us out, thank you for doing it. But as it led up to Sunday, I didn't sense any of the coin flip, maybe, sorta, kinda.
Nothing like that at all.
Yeah, it really, halfway through Wednesday, about the time Johnson, maybe even before Johnson had flipped, I think the thought was that Derrick Cooper on Sunday was going to pick Texas, and there just wasn't any drama. That part of it is amazing too.
And I had mentioned I made a post on Tuesday on Orange Bloods where it was like not to call Cooper a lock. But one of the things one of my sources had said is we have another.
Yeah.
And it ain't Cooper. We have another and Cooper.
Yeah,
and then
right.
out of nowhere,
Cooper
the Johnson thing materializes. And, think about Johnson. And I guess he's such an interesting recruit. I still don't know how to talk about a guy that is the highest rated Rivals defensive tackle commit that the Longhorns have had ever in history. But a week ago, he wasn't ranked as a 5-star by anybody. And in 2 of the services, he's still a guy who I'm trying to figure out what he is before signing day. Is he the best defensive tackle that Texas has ever signed? Well, because when Texas started recruiting him, I think there was a real sense that not that he was a sleeper. That's unfair, right?
Right. I was going to ask you if he went to some camp and just started throwing dudes into the seats or something to go from.
No, he's one of these guys that was getting some strong attention, but not everybody in the country attention.
Mm-hmm.
Texas I won't say found him, but Texas identified him. And they were like, this is one of our dudes. Like, we love this guy. And they thought they had the inside track on him. They thought for a couple of months, this is going to be one of our guys. And he's really, really good. And people were kind of sleeping on how good he is. And then Georgia went, hey, who's this defensive tackle that they're throwing Tommy Harris as a name around loosely with? And then they looked at him and they were like, hey, we'll have a little some of that. And then the kid was like, I've been waiting for Georgia my entire life. And then Texas made one of those faces that you see on our thumbnails, right? Where it was like, because they had put in all the work. They really had. They had, that kid's a 5-star because Texas identified him, put him on, like, it really was the Texas attention on Johnson, I think, that caused Georgia to go, wait a minute. What's Texas doing? They looked, and again, I think they were like, oh, we'll have some of that, and it moved Georgia right to the line. And when that recruitment ended, the people that I talked to were like, that's some bullshit.
Yeah.
Not happy. They were like, we put the time in, we worked really hard, we had that thing put up on a tee, Georgia came in, did some Georgia stuff, and now and there was a thought of like, hey, that's not over. Give us some time.
Yeah.
I literally, when I heard that there was another guy that first of all, I was told it's another 5-star. That Johnson just became a 5-star on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't automatically think of him. And I thought that guy will be a guy that flips if he flips later. Right? When they flipped Anthony Hill, they knew in July they were going to get that kid to flip. But I was told it's going to take till November or December, and everybody just needs to be cool and be patient and chill, be little Fonzies. It'll be fine. I thought that was the case with Johnson. I wasn't expecting the imminent flip. That one caught me a little off guard. Not that he would be a guy they would flip. The timing was kind of stunning because it had only been a couple of weeks. And I just hadn't had any of my sources say, sometimes you have to ask questions. I think that Johnson was a perfect example of that kid committed to Georgia. And I kind of got like, hey, give us some time. And you know what I did, Chad? I gave them some time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they asked for.
Yeah.
And as it turns out, time might mean hours in the world of Texas football recruiting in 2025. Mental note taken.
Yeah, no kidding. Huge week for Texas in recruiting. Now, what's the next thing? What are maybe the next name or two? We'll have Ketch get into that. Let's talk about Longhorn Wealth Management Group one more time. And hey, if you're in the Dallas area, we've told you that John is up there, 15 years as the Dallas Texas Exes chapter board member, and he's helping out with that Collin County, Texas Exes chapter. So if you live in Collin County, you want to get involved, just shoot John an email. He'll get you added to that Collin County chapter email for all upcoming events like, check this one out, the July Happy Hour event. It's this Thursday. Again, we debut Wednesdays at 10. So whenever you're checking us out, this Thursday at Dirty Birds in Plano. Now that just sounds like a good time. John's going to see you out there if you want to check it out. John also very pumped about Scotty Scheffler getting that British Open. John, maybe like me, a stat freak, loves the fact that Scotty Scheffler, got his fourth major the same number of days after his first major that Tiger Woods did, the exact same number there. Absolutely crazy. John's got that free 90-minute private consultation for you to celebrate Scotty Scheffler or whatever else is going on great in your Longhorn world. So just give him a call, 972-707-4900, or go to longhornwealth.net, talk a little Scotty Scheffler, and then talk a little free 90-minute consultation and find out how a certified financial planner like John can help you out. Catch that one, blew my mind. 1,197 days, I think, is the stat. From the moment you win your first major to the moment you win your fourth, it was exactly the same for Scotty as it was for Tiger.
No, they're just some stuff
Crazy.
with Scotty. Some of the numbers are,
man.
Like I saw one the other day that was his current run of tournaments and majors isn't quite as high as Tiger or Jack.
Mm-hmm.
But you can take anybody else that's ever played the game, Tom or Phil or anybody.
Yeah.
And you can take his numbers and take their best numbers and I forgot what the stat was, but total number of tournaments won in majors. He's done what those two have done in their best 4 or 5 year window. And he's got 11 months to go. So it's he's even with them in all those numbers. And now he can pile on top and get close to Jack. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, the one that still gets me, and the fact that he hasn't been really pushed yet in these major wins. 4 major wins, all by 3 strokes or more. No one's ever done that. Seve Ballesteros had 3 of those, and they were tied. Now he's got 4, but nobody's ever started like this in terms of major wins. I've loved watching him play since the moment I saw him. And now the fact that he's this, it's now he's can't miss television for me. Anytime he is involved, I'm checking it out. All right, Catch, before we wrap the recruiting hour this week, Longhorn fans are always wondering what's next. Part of being Texas is you got the power to really do whatever you want. So I know there have been a couple names thrown out this week on orangebloods.com as maybe, possibly, after a week like that and knowing where the landscape is, what's your next thought for Sark and Texas in this cycle? Is it chill out a bit and take a breath? Or do you think there's another target or two that maybe they're going to go after?
Well, I think there's a part of them now that feels like they need to sit down and see how the market shifts a little bit. I think a lot has happened in July that they thought would happen. I think they did November and December and July. It was Christmas in July.
Right, right. They put the tree up early.
Because I think in May and June, they felt like we'll use the same tactics.
Mm-hmm.
We'll wait late, come in with our NIL, bing, bang, boom. Look how it worked last year. It's a plan. It worked. And I think they started missing on some guys. And I think they looked at the landscape and they went, okay, well, this year, Christmas is in July. We have to do it now. The difference is a lot of guys are signing contracts. Felix Ojo is a perfect example, right? His agent literally said, we're signed, baby. Now, that doesn't mean that kid has to go to Texas Tech. But it kind of does. I mean, any of us that ever signed contracts, there are ways to get out of contracts.
Yeah.
A lot of times they involve lawyers or the type of financial penalties that make it so that you're like, you know what? I won't break my lease. I will wait until the lease expires before I move.
You have a good point, Mr. Roper.
So I think, first of all, they're not desperate anywhere. I think they'd love a badass tight end. I think they're not desperate, but they're probably a notch away from that at the left tackle spot. The rub they have, one of them is, they want to see the market. They want to be on the receiving end of some badass players were lied to or misled about the finances of the sport. And when December comes around and they're like, it's time to put pen to paper, sign me to a deal, they think there are going to be some kids that think that they're going to get $750,000 that suddenly won't have that market. And they think if they just sit and they just wait, that there are guys that are maybe $1 million or $750,000 players that they can get for a third of that or a quarter of that. And if they can do that, they will take. They'll take more. Sark won't be able to contain himself.
Right.
But those players are really expensive right now.
Yeah.
Your average Rivals 250 guys getting 2 biscuits and a side of gravy.
Those are big biscuits.
Those are big, Chad.
Those are big, tasty biscuits too.
That's $250 in breakfast terms.
That's a flaky biscuit.
He's getting 2 biscuits and some gravy. And Texas is like, biscuits didn't used to cost $250.
Yeah, screw eggs. These biscuits are great.
The egg prices really did go up. So they're just kind of waiting to see what happens. We know they want to get offensive linemen. I think they'd like to sign a couple more. Their problem is they know they have a need, but they also know that they don't want to spend money in 2026 that is dead money. They're really nervous about, like, what do we need to get a badass tackle, but do we want to spend $1 million on a guy that A, won't play in 2026, and B, we don't know if we'll ever play. How do we? So I think one of the things that's happening behind the scenes right now, they're just trying to figure out, what do we do with the offensive line?
Yeah. Let me ask a question real quick, as long as you're there, Catch. I thought about a guy like Zayden Krempin, who obviously Longhorn fans love the thought of not only Flipmas, but flip from the Aggies, right? A guy the Aggies have that you grab. Is Zayden Krempin the kind of guy that when you get to that point, you'd make that choice? Or do you stay away from it because, like you're saying, maybe he doesn't immediately play? What is Zayden Krempin for you?
Zayden Krempin may be the bad boyfriend in this class for Texas. Let me tell you what that means.
Okay.
You ever known a girl or a guy? It could be the bad girlfriend too. And a guy can't help himself. It's like, oh man, I'm going out with Sally tonight. And your friends are like, oh damn. Because Sally like smokes crystal meth or something like that, you know? But like Sally's fun.
Sally's got a rep, kids.
Sally's a lot of things, but she also carries around a meth habit, right?
She ain't dull.
And it's like, oh, you just can't say no, though. There's just, I've dated women. I just can't say no, right? I think he's committed to A&M. Mm-hmm. That's a big one. I mean, anytime these schools can kick the other one in the nuts for sport.
Right. That's why I brought him up. I mean,
I do think they think he's all. I think they think he's a live wire.
Okay.
Here's the thing. He is the prototype of what they're saying they don't want. He does need 2 or 3 seasons of development. He is not Kelvin Banks. He's not even DJ Campbell. And DJ Campbell showed up and played as a true freshman, but DJ Campbell wasn't ready in retrospect. He's a guy so I think he's a guy that if you ask me today, gun to my head, predict where he ends up, I think Texas.
Really? Okay.
But A&M's not going to let that kid go for nothing. So I think to flip him, it will cost money. It will cost probably an amount of money that they don't want to spend on an offensive lineman that needs 2 or 3 years of development. Like that guy's 2028. And there's nothing wrong with that. I know we spend so much time talking about super blue chips and offensive linemen, but just in general and like the need for these guys to show up and play. But like other than the Kelvin Bankses of the world, offensive linemen take time and their hit rates, you can't guess. Trevor Goosby's literally a needle in a haystack. You can't just say, let's go do the Trevor Goosby thing again. It's never happened before. I'm literally trying to compare Luke Jokel to Trevor Goosby to get to a place where there's actually an example of Trevor Goosby, and Luke Jokel is not Trevor Goosby. Like, we can all agree to that. Like, The only thing those two dudes have in common is that they play tackle and they both ended up being tall. But we wouldn't have said, you know what they say about Trevor Gooseby? What's that, Bob? You close your eyes and look real. You squint close enough. Luke Jokel. Like, it's just not what we did. and so consequently, it's not as easy as like, well, they just got finished with Trevor Gooseby. Let's do it again. Because you know what? A&M's still looking for the next Luke Jokel, too.
I was just about to say, Luke Jokel doesn't walk in every day either, does he?
He is. It turns out, you know what it turns out? The needle in the haystack guys are freaks.
Yeah, there's a guy out there named Manziel who would tell you that. Yeah, they don't just create Luke Jokels all the time.
Well, and Manziel's another. You got to think about it. Remember when we were working at the Horn and who did, was it Honing that did the Kerrville Tivy play-by-play? Somebody would come through the radio station all the time that would watch Manziel as a senior at Kerrville.
Yeah, I think it was Hone and also Steve Foster. I remember Foss going crazy for Johnny early on.
And, you know, Johnny ended up being a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
He just is. There's never been another Johnny. Yeah. And so Krempin has about a 25% chance of being an NFL drafted player one day, and Texas knows it. And Texas knows that kid probably doesn't hit the field really until 2028 or something bad happened. Right? We're rushing him onto the field. We know he's not ready. Either it turns out he's a unicorn or we've had some injuries or whatever, but he's probably, you hope, hey, maybe he's on the 2D by end of the year, second year, getting some snaps, and then third year, compete for a starting job. That's a win. That's a win. You know what that means? He might start 28, 29, 30. That's a huge success.
Sure.
But they may have to pay that kid $400, $500 or more because in order to get that kid, you will have to flip him from A&M. And A&M, what will be if A&M paid that kid hypothetically $500,000 in NIL, and they heard he's about to flip to Texas? Call me crazy, but my first instinct is to think that A&M will increase.
No doubt. Yep. That'd be a hell of a battle.
At which point then Texas would have to say, Jesus Christ. Like,
here we
go. Already said we didn't want to do this.
Right.
But now we may have to do this. They talk, Malachi Lee's a good example. I was told that right now, and I don't even think this is from Michigan necessarily, but that Malachi Lee has offers of like Jamarian Carlton money, not far from Felix Ojo money, right? Like if you if you believe that Texas Tech got Ojo for like $1 million instead of 1.7, that's not. I heard he's not far away from that kind of territory. Think Brandon Baker kind of money, right?
Just south of $1 million.
And they're like, I think there's some real hope and optimism, but I think they feel like there's a comfort level from an NIL or a revenue share, wherever the money comes from for a guy like that, that they're comfortable with. And it ain't like it ain't just shy of $1 million. It ain't 8, it ain't 7. Like they are, again, looking at the offensive line thing is just turned into tricky. And the thing that I heard about, you know what helps with offensive linemen? If they really want to go to the school that they choose. One of the things that really helped Texas out in the recruitment of turn time is he wanted to go to Texas. And so for them and that recruitment, I think they were able to keep the budget and the commitment to the whole cause where they wanted to. But I think now they're probably looking at it and go, look, man, this is what we did for John Turntime. And we really want him. We're not going above Turntime. Like you know what someone turns into, Chad? It's different levels of spending. It is a little bit of like what Georgia had going on at the defensive tackle position last year when Texas came in late for Justice Terry.
Right.
And it was like, well, we love Justice Terry and we want Justice Terry, but there are real consequences for dating that bad boyfriend
Sometimes you got to draw a line.
You do. And I think there's a bunch of people in the Texas football facility who probably have different opinions on what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I bet if you ask Kyle Flood what they're going to do, I bet Kyle Flood would be like, we're going to go get some offensive linemen.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to flip Malachi Lee and Crippen. I'm going to flip them all.
Sark and Brandon Harris are on the other side of the room. Whoa, easy. Cool down, coach.
I think they're not even them, though, right? Like, there are dudes that cut checks. And I do think there gets to be a point where when you cut the checks these days, you get to ask, is this smart? I'll cut any check you want me to.
Yeah.
Am I just cutting a check to cut a check, though?
Yeah.
And you know what? If you're Brandon Harris, you're Steve Sarkisian, you know what you can't be is the little boy that cried wolf. Because I think what we've seen in the last month is Sark has said, okay, damn it. And I know we got to wrap up. This is my final thought.
Mm-hmm.
I think he thought, all that matters to me is that I get this, and this under the tree on Christmas Day. And I don't give a damn about anything else. So running back, quarterback, edge, an offensive lineman, a D tackle, and a linebacker. They went out and got those guys. And inexplicably in some cases. And I think he told all of the people who were going to pay for it, those guys are playing right away. We have to have them. I don't even care about what else happens. I want those guys. So they went out and got them. Now, I think, does the tune change? They went out and got it. I mean, it was not an inexpensive commitment to close on the guys that they closed on. Can they go out now if it looks like they got to spend some crazy amount of money to flip Malachi Lee? Is their level of desperation meet the price? Right now they say no, but they want it to be yes. And I think they're caught in between multiple places. And I think this time it may be real. This time we may need a little bit of time to unfold so that they have time to really evaluate the market. Look, in December, is there an offensive tackle nationally that's Justice Terry that they didn't think in May or June or July that they were going to be in on, but circumstances have made this an option? I think those are viable things to keep an eye on, but it's not fun to necessarily talk about on June 23rd because it's not an emphatic, this is what's going to happen.
Remember to check out orangebloods.com for the very latest on recruiting and everything that is going on. There's your QR code. Click on in and get signed up, just like John did from Longhorn Wealth Management Group all the way back in 2002. Make 2025 the year that you signed up for orangebloods.com. Shout out to John and his group at Longhorn Wealth Management Group. Also, before we jump out, shout out to Specs because they do a whole lot for us.
This summer, when the sun scorches and sanity is one sweat beat away from collapse, a hero rises. Specs, your cathedral of cold cans, your oasis of cool.
Thanks to Specs for sponsoring the chat on the live show weekdays at noon on Orange Bloods Live. Check out all the great content. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and getting your notifications. Until next week when we debut once again Wednesday at 10 a.m. This is the Recruiting Hour. Thanks to Jeff Ketchum for stepping in this week. Jason Sukumel back next week. I'm Chad Hastings. This is Orange Bloods Live. See ya.